Ashley, do you have your host key?
I don't. It's recording. I don't see where it says that I'm the host, though.
It's under participants. Let me see if I can change it though. Because it was.
Yes, I see that it says that.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm making you the host. Do you
Okay,
want to
cool.
change Barry? Yes. Okay, so now you are listed as host.
Cool. So I can change people. I've got it all set up on this side to be able to answer people when they raise their hand and that sort of thing. So.
Perfect.
The person listed as training is the laptop in the office for.
Okay, for Dave and
Yes.
Bob. Perfect.
And I've got you off mute. So if you're wanting to mute, you can mute.
Okay. I will stay off mute until we start.
Okay.
Nancy's on mute.
All right, so I should go to slideshow, right? Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna try my share screen and just make sure it's the right one, okay? You can let me know. Interesting, there's one, okay. What do you see now?
I see the presentation. It looks great.
Okay. All right. All right, so how do I go back? Somehow I've lost my. Yeah, lost it. Okay, I still have to try it again here. Okay. Glad we have a little time here to make sure from beginning. Okay, good. All right, I should be okay. You can see it now, right?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay. All right, then I'm just going to leave it just where it is, and hopefully I won't mess anything up. But if I do, people are just going to have to bear with me. Can you still see the pictures, or is it just that? Basically,
just the presentation.
all right, so I've got to stop it until we're ready to go. Okay. Okay, just making sure my other screens are closed so nothing pops up that I don't want people to see. Okay, I think we're all set. I learn a lot every new hour. I was able to get the payroll expense worksheet from Judy Cherry, so that's helpful. It goes along with the Paycheck Protection Program. So. There's a little more light. I think we're going to have a good participation.
This is a cop going by. Cop gets out, looks at the garbage. Because that's construction debris from mouths. Going out, inspect it.
Okay, I'm gonna go check on Green Star. I'll be right back.
Okay. I listened to your advice, Ike's, on the unemployment, but I can't find any more information on that yet. So how self-employed people file is still, there's still a lot of unknowns. So Ashley, if you'd start by welcoming everybody and letting them know that we'll be doing the raise the hands.
I thought we weren't doing raise the hands.
I thought we were doing it.
No, because it was too much. It wasn't working well because of the way that this is showing up for Barry or myself. So we were just going to do the.
I changed the slides to say raise your hand. So
okay, well, so be it.
Well, no, we can use the chat room. So.
And I already did welcome everyone in the chat room. So. And I said that for those joining early, we are just testing the PowerPoint right now.
Great. It's kind of nice to see my office with the Green Star guys in it. I haven't seen that for weeks. So I'm going to have a good group here today.
Barry, is that background your property?
Yes.
Is it sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Very nice. We were on earlier today, Barry and I, and what was amazing is how the light in my office here at home changed just by clouds going over the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a challenge because the paint color in this room is so dark. Mhm. So I was in a 3-hour session yesterday on all the tax ramifications of the CARES Act. That was a really good session. Of course, a lot of things were just like, well, we think this, but we're not sure. We think this, but we're not sure. So it's going to take a while for people to figure things out. I did remember to mute my phone, fortunately. So, so I have a friend who lives down the road, and she doesn't get internet at her home. So she is pulled up in my driveway to listen in. Obviously, she couldn't come in. Hi, Tina. So that's my friend, Tina Nagel.
That's great. Where there's a will, there's a way.
So, yeah. So that's who Galaxy Note 8 is, Barry.
Perfect. I can rename.
Yeah. Yep. That's Tina.
Hopefully I spelled it correctly.
Yep. So I'm glad my Wi-Fi is good in my driveway. So we got people checking in now. That's great. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
We're new with this Zoom stuff, so bear with us. We got on early to try to work out all the kinks in it, make sure that we know what we're doing, but you have to bear with me in this, or bear with our team, I should say.
No worries. I've never used Zoom before this. Should we open these?
Yeah, it's well, we'll be going over it all soon. It's been an ongoing process gathering information about this new law. feel like I should be delivering a monologue here, you know, kind of like, but I'm not a Stephen Colbert by a long shot, so I won't try to do that. We've got quite a few more people checking in here as we go. That's great. I shut my door, so hopefully my cats will not join this Zoom event.
I can't promise that my daughter won't join.
Life in the new world.
Yep.
I think the person you mentioned, Barry, that had signed on so early has dropped off, so hopefully they'll come back.
Yeah, there were 4 or 5 folks that were on early. So
One of them was yeah, I think they're still there, and Green Star got switched. So I think everyone's.
Okay, good. Hi, George.
Note to self, buy a new computer. I am so cheap, you know, my staff all got new computers and now I have to work from home. Thank goodness for Spectrum and Wi-Fi out here in the middle of nowhere. It's great, but
Yeah, you're lucky.
I mean, I've just been crashing and all day.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't have access to internet out my way. But
Yeah.
years ago when I first moved out here, was able to get Time Warner to bring the cable down to this road, and turned out to be a really good thing, especially now.
Yeah, my business manager's like using her phone as a hotspot.
Yeah.
And able to do all kinds of work with that. Nobody's taught me the hotspot thing yet, but I've got internet through Spectrum and it's great.
That's good.
It's the computer that's the problem. and the old man not understanding Zoom type technology.
Well, we're all getting used to it. And hopefully
Quickly.
I'll do well in sharing this So we'll wait another minute or so and then we'll get
Sure.
started.
Sure.
Definitely need to have kind of an ongoing presentation for for the warm-up period, if you will. So we'll have to think about how to do that. Talk to some veteran Zoom people.
Yeah.
So. Okay, well, got a couple more people coming in and then we can get going. Got some fun pictures of people and all right. Hi, AJ. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I'll ask Ashley to kind of go over how we're going to communicate with each other today, and then I'll go from there.
Great. Thank you, Nancy, and welcome everybody to this Zoom call today. If you have any questions, if you're new to Zoom and not sure how to use it, at the bottom of the page is a chat word bubble. So if you click on that, you can ask me any questions through there and I'll be able to help you out as best I can. Everyone should be on mute for the most part right now. So after Nancy gets started into her PowerPoint, if you have any questions regarding things she's talking about or things that you've had sitting at the back of your mind, just go ahead and ask me through that chat bubble and we will unmute you. I think that's it. Have I missed anything, Nancy or Barry?
So they can also, under the manage participants, you guys can click on that and you can raise your hand if you have a question as well.
All right, well, welcome everyone. It's good to see your faces and hear from you in these tough times. So my name is Nancy Kirby and I'm the Executive Director at Incubator Works. We're a business incubator, and that means that we're here to support entrepreneurs and small businesses in our community. So it seemed to us the best way to support you under these difficult times is to provide assistance in how to navigate the government programs, especially with the CARES Act that was passed last weekend. And critical thing is you'll hear me say, and you'll hear other people say today that we're not sure, we don't know yet, but time is of the essence. Even though the act was passed just last weekend, the need for these funds is so high that while the amount of funding in the program is high, when you look at the demands across the whole country, it's likely that this funding will be used up quickly. So if we want to get this money into our community, we need to act fast. So our mission here today is to get you the information you need to be able to get the money you need so that your business can survive. So that said, I'm going to launch into the presentation. So let's see if I can do the share screen properly here. Okay, and share. All right, Barry, is it sharing properly?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Well, I'm getting used to this. All right, so our whole mission today, as I said, is to be able to give you what you need so you can get into the CARES Act and get money from either the Paycheck Protection Program, the Debt Relief Program, economic disaster loans and emergency economic injury grants, small business tax provisions, income tax relief, unemployment, and some tips with working with your lenders. The link here to the CARES Act is a very good summary of the legislation that came from the Senate Committee on Entrepreneurship. So highly recommend that you check that out. Okay, so remember, this was passed into law just last weekend, so we're all still figuring it out. So this isn't a complete overview. We hardly even know all the questions, but this is a good place to start. As we go through this and we're making recommendations, be sure that you consult with your accountant or financial advisor for your business before making any decisions. These are broad recommendations and everyone's situation is slightly different. So you heard Ashley say earlier that you can use the chat room, and Barry talked about the raise hand. So we've got a couple different options for you and how to ask questions. And as I go through each section of this law, or of the opportunities, that there'll be an opportunity for questions after each particular point or section. So the Paycheck Protection Program, you'll hear it referred to as PPP. I actually dropped one of the P's in the heading. So loan overview, what is it? It's up to 250% or 2.5 months of the last 12 months of average payroll. Important thing is it's not just payroll. It's also like if you run a hair salon, it's what you paid to your people in your salon that you gave 1099s to. It includes what you paid for health insurance for your employees. It includes what you put into a retirement account for your employees. So that's the amount you can get. And thanks to Judy Cherry, I just got the form just before this conference, on the payroll expense worksheet that shows how you actually calculate that. So we can make that available to everyone too. So here's the big thing. If you use the money for what you say you were going to use it for, which is primarily payroll, but there's some other things you can use it for, which we'll see in the next slide, the loan is forgiven. You don't have to pay it back. For the balance, it's not forgiven. It remains a loan at 4% interest rate for up to 10 years. No collateral or personal guarantee. You don't find that for small business loans, hardly ever. And the funds are to be received within 3 days from the receipt of the completed application. I got to clarify, oh, okay, I'm getting mixed up. That is correct. The funds for this are to go out 3 days after the receipt of the completed application and approval by your bank. So that's got to be approval too. So how can the money be used? As I mentioned, it can be used for salaries, wages, independent contractors who would otherwise be employees, rent and utilities, and mortgage interest. And as I mentioned before, if used for these things, the loan will be forgiven. Does your business qualify? You have to be able to certify that current economic uncertainty makes this loan necessary to support ongoing operations. So you have to have been in business on February 15th of this year. You must have paid payroll or independent contractors. Both for-profit and nonprofits are eligible for this loan. And self-employed individuals, sole proprietors, are also eligible. Obviously, you would have had to pay somebody else payroll, but if you had, then you would be eligible for this loan. Here's the thing, like one of the questions I've gotten just in the last few days is, where do I go for this loan? And this loan is going to be administered by banks. And they have to be banks that are accredited as an SBA lender, which most of the banks and credit unions in our area are already SBA lenders. So that's, you go to the banks. Here's what the form looks like. I don't know how well you can see it. This is page 1, and it's very basic questions. And the top of it is the average monthly payroll, and that's the amount of loan that you can get in the number of jobs. And then you pick the purpose of the loan. So, and those are the categories that really qualify. If you're to check other, they would probably consider it, but it wouldn't be is likely to be approved. So then the questions down below in the application have to do with any prior SBA loans, and have you been convicted of any felonies? So
Nancy, we have a question.
Okay, I'm going to get through page 2 and then we'll
Okay.
get to that question. Okay.
Yep.
So then page 2 is the certifications. In the top one, under the certifications is the key one, that current economic uncertainty makes this loan request necessary. So you've got to be able to certify that. And so, questions?
All right, so I believe this is from Tina in your driveway. And do they do an inquiry to your credit for this?
No, not that I know of. It's supposed to be based upon the payroll and your need for the payroll. But because there's no personal guarantee, there's no collateral. But we do need to find that out for sure.
Okay.
So I don't know that definitely. George, do you know? The question for George Minor.
George, you got to take yourself off mute.
I
How
think
about now?
Okay, you're good.
You know.
And all that for me to say, I don't know.
Okay, all right. Well,
I've never gone to a bank where they didn't run a credit report, but this is a new world.
yeah. And when you figure that the idea is that if you use the money as you say you're going to use it, that they forgive it, it would be almost a moot point. But the banks are really going crazy this week. If you tried to call your banker this week, they're not accessible because they're working hard to figure out how they're going to get this program out there.
But like you said, I saw the list that are, I don't know the term, but certified SBA lenders, and every bank I had ever known since I've been in the Southern Tier for 30 years was on that list.
Right.
You know, Schmunk Canal, ESB, Corning Credit Union, First Heritage, everybody was there. So I wouldn't go looking for a new bank. I would go to the bank that you currently have a savings account with, checking account, whatever your relationship is. That's where I would start.
If you have payroll, you should apply for this
Yep.
program. It's like,
Yep.
There's no question you should. Other questions?
Another question is, where do I go to get the application?
The application is online. It's on the SBA website. It's Form 2483. We can also put a link on, especially because the latest link I got from Judy Cherry had the worksheet. So maybe we can get that put on our website. So Ashley, you can check and see if we can get that on our website.
Okay, and just to clarify, you said it is Form 2183?
2483.
2483.
2483 SBA form. And I hadn't seen, when I'd been on the website, I hadn't seen the payroll worksheet that I got from Judy. So we'll make sure it's accessible to everybody. And so check in on our website. Also, our emails are at the end. So if there's any questions that you have that we don't get covered or forms you'd like, you can send us an email. Okay, anything else, Ashley?
Let me just scroll up. I think that's everything.
If you Google SBA PPP, the first thing that comes up is that application form.
Great.
Okay, here's a question. Thanks, George, by the way. It looks like there are two different funding options for the self-employed who might be sole proprietors who are unable to conduct business right now. Pursuing unemployment through the pandemic unemployment assistance or the Paycheck Protection Program loan that might be forgiven in part or full. I assume this is either or proposition between the two. Any guidance for a sole proprietor as to which would be the better option to pursue?
That is a really good question, and right on. Actually, the payroll protection or paycheck protection program might not be as helpful as the next loan we're going to look at. The next program might, or I don't know if it's the next one, but we'll be looking at the economic disaster loan. But because of the amount of unemployment and the $600 bonus, if you will, weekly addition to unemployment, it may be better to do unemployment.
Okay.
that's a case-by-case situation, and we'd be happy to help you navigate those waters.
I will tell you, I'm hearing from people right now that it is taking at least a week to finish the application process for unemployment, minimum. So,
Because they're so backed up.
correct.
So whoever has asked that question, we'd be happy to compare the actuals based upon your specifics.
Super. And then an additional question is, did you indicate that 1099s are included as or considered payroll?
For this program, they're treated the same as payroll. So if you have people that are working for you and you give them 1099s, you can include them in your calculation of how much you should receive under this program. And then when you use it to pay them for that in the future, it will be forgiven. Okay.
I think that's it for now.
All right, debt relief. This is something that's brand new, and in fact, I haven't even had a chance to check in and see what more we know. But for businesses that already have SBA loans, and for those who take out new loans in the next 6 months, the SBA will cover all loan payments, including interest, principal, and fees for 6 months. So to get this, you work with your SBA lender who already has your SBA loan and or REDAC. So George, I know in our last Zoom meeting yesterday, you didn't have any details yet on this. Do you know anything more at this point?
Yeah, apparently the SBA, if you have an existing SBA loan, whether it's a micro loan or a 7A loan or a 504 loan, not to keep throwing numbers and acronyms and stuff out at you, the SBA is going to make those payments for you for the next 6 months. So if you have a loan with SBA loan with REDAC, we have canceled all the what we call the ACH payments, how we pull the funds out of your bank account. We have stopped all those for the next 6 months, and we are going to be paid by the SBA. The details of us getting paid have not come out yet, but that's what I'm being told.
George, I failed to really properly introduce you. Would you tell our participants about REDAC and what it is how you work with the banks?
Sure. REDAC is a not-for-profit agency that's been in existence it'll be 40 years in October. We receive funding from a variety of federal and state agencies to provide small business loans. We have just about every bank in the region is on our board, along with community leaders like Nancy, business leaders like Nancy, and people from the Small Business Development Center and various economic development agencies. But we have funds to loan for business to start a business or to expand a business. And we've been doing it for a long time. How's that?
That's great. Thanks, George. Appreciate that. And REDAC, if we were all in our workplaces, you could see REDAC right in our incubator, but
right down the hall.
Yeah, none of us are where we normally are right now. So questions about the debt relief?
There was an additional question, Ashley, I see.
Yes, so now that Nancy's on the question page. So this question is, I'm self-employed and an employee someplace. My job is still paying me in full, but not working. My business has lost 90% of its income. I'm a daycare owner. I've laid all of my staff off. Do I qualify for unemployment, or should I apply for the SBA loan?
Oh, gosh. Well, being daycare, there is another provision in the CARES Act. We should talk and be happy to talk to you, because there's another provision in the CARES Act for daycare, for special funds to provide daycare operators. But that said, you've had to close your business. I think, you know, if you plan to continue your business, I would file for the Paycheck Protection Program and the economic disaster loan, both. So that you're ready to, when this is over, you're ready to open up and you have the money you need to do it. And that money that you have, because you'll be using it to pay people, will actually be a grant. So that's without knowing the specifics of your situation, but in general, that's how I think I would approach this.
Nancy, would you like me to take her off mute?
Sure.
Okay.
No, please don't, please feel comfortable. Please don't offer anything that you're not comfortable offering in a group session, because we can certainly talk privately too.
So I'm going to apologize for my voice because I've been a little ill, but Nancy, I have worked with you in the past, and Jerome actually said that I should get on here.
Good.
So I'm an employee of the school district, and obviously, we're all at home and we're being paid.
Yeah.
But I also own a 24-hour daycare that went from 32 children to 6 children in one day.
Uh-huh.
I laid off all 6 of my staff and been running the daycare by myself.
Okay, so you should definitely file for the Paycheck Protection Program, and you need to look specifically at the daycare program. And it's nice to hear from you again, even though it's under such tough circumstances. I remember visiting your operations. It's very, very impressive.
So here's my tweaked question to that. In the process of this, I had signed on and took over some commercial space for expansion. So now I'm paying my mortgage where the daycare is at running this moment, and the mortgage for the commercial space where we were supposed to move to May 1st and now cannot because OCFS is shut down.
Yeah, so you definitely should apply for both loans, both programs. And as I said, there's some special funding available for daycares that I haven't had a chance to really learn yet. So
okay.
So there's definitely help in this CARES Act for you, and need to get going on it quickly. So
can somebody send me links to be able to apply for both of those programs?
they'll be right in this PowerPoint, and we can send you the PowerPoint with all the links. So yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to put you on mute again real quick.
Thanks.
And an additional question we have is, we have a small business, 2 people, rarely pull a paycheck, but pay our bills from the income from the business. We also pay others and give them 1099s at the end of the year. Should we still apply for this loan?
Yes, for the 1099s. Can't apply for yourself for the paycheck protection. So you can include any health insurance or retirement you pay for yourself out of that business if you do. But you can't, your personal draw, which is really your income, you can't put that in this program. Okay.
All right.
All right, so now we get to the economic injury disaster loans and emergency economic injury grants. And you'll hear this called the EIDL program. So these are lower interest loans up to $2 million to pay for expenses that could have been met if the disaster had not occurred. So our last question about the daycare is exactly that. She has expenses that she could have paid if this disaster had not occurred. The grant part of this is when you file the application, you get a payment of $10,000 3 days after you actually file the EIDL application. That's a big deal. Now, the sad part is that the actual loan is probably going to take, they say, a month. So figure 2 months before you get the money. But getting that $10,000 up front right now when you need it most is a big deal. Some of you know a guy named Omar Sanders. He works for Empire State Development, and he's very involved in our community. And he was in contact with us and said, "I'm really glad you're doing this. There's something people need to know," and we don't have it in the slides, but I want to mention it now. That's just an allergy cough, nothing to worry about. If they send you an error message saying there's something missing in your application, make sure you fix it within 7 days or they shoot you down to the bottom of the queue. And you do not want to lose your place in the queue in applying for this. So that's a recommendation from Omar. So the application process, this is online. This is something I have never seen in any of my years of working in finance or working with businesses getting loans or taxes. In the last week, the application has gone from being a typical loan application that you'd see with any bank to a 2-page application. SBA says it'll take 2 hours and 10 minutes to complete. And once you complete it, assuming that you got it accurate and complete, you should get a payment of $10,000 to your bank account within 3 days. The Small Business Development Center can assist with this, and they're very, very backed up. So if you can't get through to them, I think you should still, we can help somewhat, but you still want to file because you don't want to lose your place in the queue. And later on in the presentation, we'll have contact information for the Small Business Development Center. So be ready when you start. You can't save the application. You actually have to complete it all in one sitting. So the information you have to have is your form of business, the date formed, 12 months revenue and cost of goods sold. And the SPD says you can use your 2019 year-end numbers, your bank account and routing number. Make sure you check the box that you want that $10,000 loan advance, and record your application confirmation number. So, and what's funny is, and we need to get clarification on this, is that some places we see it as a $10,000 grant and other places as a $10,000 advance. But there's nothing about paying it back. But we do need to we need to be doubly sure on that. But, if we were to look at this worst case scenario, it's a $10,000 loan when you need it the most. But the whole emphasis of the CARES Act is to get money now and to make it a grant. So.
And Nancy, in reference to the EIDL, Melanie just commented that they may be behind on that, like many things are right now. She applied 3 days ago and has a confirmation number, so it was easy, only took about 15 minutes. But as far as that 3 to 4 day time frame, it might be a little longer depending on how logged they are.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that input. That's great. So questions about the EIDL?
Is there a phone number that we have that people can follow up with the EIDL if they've applied and received a confirmation number?
I don't know.
Do we know what the APR percentage is on the loan?
I've heard it's 3.75%, but that changed because it was much higher to start with.
Okay.
I don't know if George or Melanie know.
Last I knew was 3.75%, 30 years.
Okay. Yeah, and it is 30 years, so that's a very long time. Okay.
And that's not forgiven?
No, that's a loan.
Yep.
But in there is that, are you going to get into that $10,000?
Yeah,
part?
that $10,000 is a grant. So that's, the thing is, it's confusing. They're calling it a grant and then they call it a loan advance, but
Yeah,
the intent is that it be a grant.
That's the part that's forgiven, from my understanding, is that $10,000.
All right, so there you hear it from George. That's a $10,000 grant. So if we go back to the self-employed question, it may be that if you don't have payroll, but you are self-employed and basically your business is just dried up during this time, you might want to file for the EIDL and get that $10,000 right now to help you make it through and get your and pay for your base fixed costs and just get through this time, and then have 30 years to pay it back at a low interest rate. All right, the small business tax provisions. These are the first three things we were talking about had to do with loans and loans that become grants. This has to do with income tax, and particularly with payroll tax. So if you don't go into the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, but you have an idle loan, you can still do this. Or if you don't get any loans, anybody can do this for if they have payroll at this time, is you get a refundable payroll tax credit of 50% of the first $10,000 that you pay to your employees. And it comes, you get the credit against your other payroll taxes. So half of what you pay up to $10,000 will be covered by the federal government during this period if you're not in the Paycheck Protection Program. Here's something I have never ever seen in 40 plus years of working with payroll taxes. You can actually delay the payment of the employer portion of your payroll taxes for the next year to 2 years. So for now, through the rest of 2020,
I have a guard over it.
you can defer your share of Social Security. So for the employers, they're paying 6.2% of Social Security. The total between Social Security and Medicare is 7.65. You can't defer the Medicare, but you can defer the Social Security part, otherwise called FICA. And that means you defer it for the rest of 2020, and then at the end of 2021, you pay half, and at the end of 2022, you pay the second half. So this is an interest-free loan. It's never happened before. You can't use this deferral if you have Paycheck Protection Loan because you're using that to pay payroll, but this is for people who aren't able to participate in that program. And then the income tax relief that most everyone knows about is the due date for filing and paying your 2019 income taxes. Both federal, New York has followed this, is now July 15th. So if you owe income taxes, there's no reason to pay it early because you want to hold on to that cash, and there's no interest or penalties for paying and filing on July 15th. You could always extend your tax return before, but you couldn't extend the payment. So this is a big deal. So questions about the tax provisions?
Terry, do you
has a
want to
question.
unmute Tina?
Yep, she's unmuted.
If you're still working a little bit, can you still collect on these different policies and care and acts
Yes.
and things?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, and then we have another question. If one is self-employed with no EIN and uses a DBA, is the idle loan / grant available?
Yes, because your business is under your Social Security number, which becomes your EIN.
Anyone else?
Nancy's batting 100. 1,000. Sorry, 1,000.
I don't know about that.
You
You're
helped
doing
with
right.
a few, George.
So for unemployment, the big deal for small business and entrepreneurs is it now covers self-employed people.
Mm-hmm.
And it adds $600 a week increase across the board for all recipients. I was on a call yesterday where someone who is in the retail business and had to lay all his people off figured out that he's going to have a hard time bringing his people back because they're making more money on unemployment right now than they do working for him.
Yeah, I was on a call with a small business, and he had one key person, his right-hand man, if you will, still on payroll, and that's one of the things that they were crunching the numbers on, whether it was better to lay him off for the right-hand man's, family income. Was it better to lay him off and get that extra money or keep on doing what they were doing? And they were leaning towards the layoff and taking the extra unemployment just as a temporary situation. But it's very real.
Yeah, and one thing with the delay in unemployment, that doesn't, if you can't get through and you can't get filed for another, let's say 4 or 5 days, your benefits still start when the day after you've left your work. So you're not going to lose benefits. That I have seen.
If somebody has 2 EIN numbers, which one should they apply with?
Everything for the idle loan and the paycheck protection, they're both aggregated. So I was talking to somebody yesterday who has 2 restaurants, and they said just choose whichever one you want, ideally the one that's bigger, and then file under there.
Okay. And then how many months does the $600 increase last?
For 39 weeks.
10 months.
Another question, can owner of S Corp, basically self-employed, file for unemployment?
Yes, because considered self-employed, and this covers self-employed individuals. You have to think about whether you want to file for that or you want to file for the other funding. Depends on what your S Corp business is. So you want to look at the specifics, but yes, you would be able to file for unemployment.
All right.
Okay, so you should be contacting your banker now. You may have a hard time getting through to them, but you should definitely contact them as quickly as you can. One of the things you can do is ask for loan payment deferrals for the next 3 months, especially as you're working through these different loan programs. Most bankers are ready and willing to work on deferrals. So they're not going to be surprised. They're going to actually like it that you're being proactive in the situation. And if you're eligible, apply for that paycheck protection loan starting tomorrow. Don't wait, because as I've said several times through this session, while there's a significant amount of money in the CARES Act, we also have an entire nation that's stressed, under such terrible stress. So that money's got to go a long way. And just overall, good business sense right now is to protect your cash flow. Obviously, when revenues stop, cash flow stops. But when you get cash, hang on to it. So to do that, take the time to develop cash flow projections, at least for the next 3 months. Have a worst case scenario and kind of okay, we don't get back to work until May 1st. We don't get back to regular business until June 1st. When we get back, it's going to be, just spend the time to do some spreadsheets and do some different analysis on what you're going to need. Take advantage of deferrals whenever possible. The deferrals I'm talking about there are the payroll taxes, your personal income taxes. Do not pay things early right now. That's just a general rule of thumb. It just doesn't make sense. Maximize your borrowing under these programs. Hang on to the cash. I keep saying that, but really you want to hang on to your cash, and also spread the word. Don't look at this as a pie. That the more pieces of this pie we can bring into our regional economy, the better for all of us. I mean, if every one of you who's on this call today managed to get 2.5 months payroll, and then got another 10,000 from the idle loan, and were able to borrow some money under that idle loan, just think of what it means to have that working capital ready to go to work for our community. So where to find more info on the CARES Act and the small business tax provisions that we mentioned it before. It's the U.S. Senate Committee report from the Entrepreneurship Committee, which is very good. The SBA page for the disaster loan applications. The Small Business Development Center, which is at Incubator Works, but they're now working remotely. We've got their phone number. I understand they're taking 15-minute increments of appointments right now. That's how overwhelmed they are. But they're ready and willing to help you. And REDEC, there's the REDEC phone number. Is that the best phone number, George?
Either that or my cell.
Okay, you want to share your cell or?
That's fine right there, because my cell phone number and my email address are on my away message. But
okay,
my email. That's what. Do you have? You do have Scott's. Okay, good.
Yeah. So the next one is more questions. You can email me or George.
Yeah, the email's the best, because we're all, I mean, I'm sitting here, we're all multitasking. I'm looking at my cell phone while I'm doing this, and email's the best. That way, people don't get forgotten, and we'll get to you.
Okay, so, and stay tuned. We're going to go back to Ashley here soon, and she's going to ask for more input. We hope to have weekly Zoom calls as we work through these challenging times. If you're one of the entrepreneurs who come to our networking events or one of our programs, you'll know that we really are working hard to build community, and building community at times like this is challenging since we can't come together. So we're going to do it however we can. We'll be doing some fun networking events. We'll probably do a happy hour. But I think one of the things I was thinking about is we should probably do something on New York State and New York State's approach to this whole situation. And there's going to be developments. We're going to learn a lot more about these programs in the next week. I could almost see having another one next week on updates on, okay, so what do we know now?
Yeah, because this week is totally different than last week.
It sure is. So with that, Ashley, I'm going to stop the share on the presentation and turn it back over to you for our feedback and closure. So there we go.
All right, sounds good. So I think one of the things we want to know, which you don't need to answer right now necessarily, is the day that works best for you all for a Zoom call and the type of day. We tried to do it before dinner time, between lunch and dinner time, for those entrepreneurs out there that are still operating restaurants. We wanted to get them when they didn't have a busy hour. So please let us know that. And then as far as if you found today helpful, what information we might have missed that would be helpful to you, and what information or additional information that you would like to see in other Zoom calls. Like Nancy said, we could do a happy hour for some networking to see what best practices are being done right now throughout our community for startups and entrepreneurs and things like that.
I can't help this. I have to have a special shout out to my son, Mike. I haven't seen you for a while, Mike. Good to see you.
And if we drop off this call in a few minutes and you think of something later, just send us a message through our Facebook. That works as well.
Yeah, and if you just want to drop your email address off in the chat, we can just copy that and we'll utilize it for the next call to make sure that you're all included on that.
Why don't we try taking everybody off on mute for a few moments, and then we'll just kind of watch and give people an opportunity to, if they'd like to give us some feedback. So you're all now off mute, so we might get too much feedback. Yeah, too much feedback. We're learning. So. All right, so we're gonna have to stay with the raised hands or the chat room to get people's feedback. But if you could if you would raise your hand if you would like us to do something like this again, that would be okay, great. We're seeing raised hands. So, oh gosh, I got a couple of raised hands in my.
Where's Nancy?
There we
Sorry,
go.
Nancy.
Bear with us, we're learning. So, all right, so please send us your feedback. Once again, my email is nkirby, Kirby, @inkworks.org. That's INCWORKS.org. And we will take your feedback into advisement and stay tuned. I think we'll probably be back next week. Thanks for joining us and hang in there. You're all important to us. I know the phrase is overused at this point, but it's still true. We'll all get through this together, and we're here to make sure you get through it strong. So thank you.